Tangipahoa Parish Rural Fire Protection District Number 2, Resolution 23-05 to adopt the proposed operating budget for the year ending December 31st, 2024. Anyone here to comment on that? Hearing none, I call the regular meeting dated 27 November 2023 to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Forrest, Mr. Ingraffia.
Here.
Mr. Joseph.
Present.
Mr. Bruno.
Here.
Mr. Richtel.
Here.
Mr. Mayhew.
Here.
Mr. Wells. Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Public input. Anyone wishing to address any agenda item at this time? Hearing none. Adoption of the minutes, regular meeting dated October 23rd, 2023, and the special meeting dated October 25th, 2023. Now, get a motion to that.
So move.
Motion by
Second.
Mr. Vial, second Mr. Ingraffia. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Richtel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Yes.
That motion passes and is so ordered. Next item, Hammond Fire Matters, there's one, approval to purchase extrication equipment.
Good evening. I was going to get the chief to do it, but he wanted me to come do it.
Welcome to your first meeting.
Yeah, thanks. I'm working on it. So,
Trial by fire.
yeah, we're just going to start all right off the bat and see how this works out. So he's going to buy some extrication equipment. They're going into the battery operated parts. They're going to have some batteries, some chargers with it, and a RAM. The reason they're buying these purchases, the battery operated equipment, some of the older equipment, hoses, motors, all the older Rams that we have, or they have, you can't get parts for them. They're starting to be obsolete. These are lighter weight. It's easier for one person to handle versus having 2 or 3 people to pick up a motor, deal hoses, get lines out. So a little bit quicker response on getting people out of cars. So
What's the price, Dave?
the price on this is $25,249.45.
So you recommend approval?
Yes, sir.
I just got one other question. Have we looked at, can we piggyback these off of anybody that's already out? Or,
I have not got that far yet. I did do some research trying to find out about parts. Me and Chief Polita did some more research about it, and this is where we're coming up with the parts and the buying these batteries and operated equipment. Have not got with anybody. I'm gonna get with all the departments and see where they're at as far as their battery operated equipment. How many they got, how many they could use if we need another set, and maybe try to consolidate and get one bid.
because I see we got 2 on here tonight, or
Right.
they're purchasing the same kind?
They're not, there's different, I looked at them today again, there are different things that, one's getting one, different item numbers. The batteries are a little different, so it's not the same equipment. They're
Okay.
not, but yeah, moving forward, we need to have some kind of standard where everybody's getting the same.
Okay, good deal.
I entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Mr. Vial? Mr. Mayhew? Roll call, please.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Mr. Bruno.
Yes.
Mr. Richtel.
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew.
Yes.
Mr. Vial.
Yes.
Ms. Hyde.
Yes.
Ms. Coates.
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia.
Yes.
That motion passes, so ordered.
So on that note, Chief Glua came to me a while ago and gave me a check from Ida, from the storm out there. He got $309,650.84. Some of that was $100,000, I believe you said, was paid for payroll and supplies. The other part was getting charged for using the equipment during Ida. So he
Okay.
got an extra, about $200,000 extra from the storm.
It's always nice.
So just want to let you know that.
Thank you. Independence Fire Matters. Let John come up. Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Ratification 2% raise.
Yes, sir, we give a 2% raise to all our full-time employees only, not the part-time. So I'm asking the board to approve this 2% that will go into effect January of 2024.
I so move.
Motion by Mr. Bruno.
And that question we always ask, funds are available.
Yeah, it's low, $8,000 increase for the whole year in payroll. Our increase in ad valorem should take care of that.
Okay. So
Okay.
move.
I need a second.
Second.
Mr. Ingraffia, roll call, please.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes. The motion passed and is so ordered. Item 3, approval to purchase extrication equipment again.
We have the same situation Hammond Road has. Our gas-powered stuff and tools are going out, they're gonna be obsolete. They driving us to the battery-operated stuff. Mr. Bruno came by today and looked at my equipment, and I just showed him why we had to buy this battery-operated tools.
What was your cost, John?
His is,
36, 674. 36, 674.
yeah, he's a little bit higher than Hammond's was. 36,674.
Got it. So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bruno,
Second here.
second by Mr. Vial, roll call, please.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
The motion passed and so ordered.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
I want the board to know that I also got an idle reimbursement for little over 34,000, so this would take care of these two.
Outstanding.
Good deal.
Good news.
Thank you.
Not that we want more items.
Yeah. Okay, Laurent, your five matters. The ratification of 2 full-time positions.
One at $11 an hour and the other one at $9 an hour.
So moved.
Mr. Bruno, make the motion.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ingraffia. Roll call, please.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia? Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
That motion passes, so ordered. Thank you, Justin. The Tallman five matters. Ratification of part-time position.
So moved. How many has he got, Dave?
He's got one.
Gotta be one.
Yeah, at 1170.
So moved.
Mr. Bruno, make the motion.
How much an hour?
11.7.
11.7.
I'll second.
And Mr. Vial second that motion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Motion passes, so ordered. Administrators report. Adoption of TPRFD number 2, Resolution 23-04, to adopt the amended operating budget for the year ending December 31st, 2023.
Mr. James, you can take that over. He's got the big one.
Good evening, everybody. This is the time of year we have to look at amending the current year's budget, and what you have before you, I think it was in your package, is my recommendation. Everything is basically the same as what the original budget was, except for a couple of things we're tweaking, nothing major.
Okay, any questions for Dennis?
So moved.
Mr. Bruno made the motion.
Second.
Mr. Vial seconded that motion. Roll call, please.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates? Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
That motion passes, so ordered. Item 7, adoption of TRFD number 2, Resolution 23-05, to adopt the proposed operating budget for the year ending December 31st, 2024.
Mr. President, if I could comment just a little bit. Since we introduced the proposed budget at last month's meeting, I've gotten the final numbers for our property tax from the assessor's office, and the original proposed budget had a 1% increase based on the information we had then. We found out that our property tax collection is going to increase 5.84%, and that's going to generate an extra $390,000, all of which will go to the fire departments. The proposed budget for next year, everything else is the same. The administrative burden that we take out of the property taxes, everything stayed the same. So I just want to let you know what you'll be adopting tonight will have more property tax collections in it than what was proposed last month.
In other words, Merry Christmas. All right. Oh, boy, I would gladly entertain that motion. Who wants to make it?
So moved.
Mr. Vial? Second.
Second.
John Ingraffia. Roll call, please.
Ms. Coates? Mr. Ingraffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
That motion passes and so ordered. Other five matters. Discussion and action to amend fire administrator contract. David, you wanna?
Yeah, there's only a couple things that we're making a recommendation on. In the original contract, it had everything listed as to what his policies and procedures, manual and benefits and stuff like that. So, and the other fire administrator strictly followed the Tangipahoa Parish procedures manual, policy manual, benefits and that kind of stuff, okay? So we're just saying, we're just putting that in writing in this contract. And then the other thing is, we're adding one other item.
What is supplemental pay, ain't it?
No, it's item 23 on, under his responsibilities was add available to respond to emergency calls. Added that to the contract. And everybody got a copy of that? Jill, we
Yeah.
sent that out? Yes. Sent the old contract out and the new, so I'll make that motion.
Yeah,
I'll
David and
second.
I, we went to the meeting in Baton Rouge, and they recommend that we include that in this contract. Okay,
I'll second.
okay, second by Mrs. Hyde. Roll call?
Mr. Graffia?
Yes.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Okay, that motion passed and is so ordered. Item 9, discussion and action to move the next fire board meeting to December 11th, 2023.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Bruno,
Because the
holiday.
fire board meeting will be the day after Christmas.
Christmas, yeah,
So it'll be up one meeting.
right. I didn't hear a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Vial, roll call.
Mr. Joseph?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Richtel?
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew?
Yes.
Mr. Vial?
Yes.
Ms. Hyde?
Yes.
Ms. Coates?
Yes.
Mr. Graffia?
Yes.
So we gotta get it out into you by
December 5th,
December 5th,
Tuesday.
okay? All right. Item 10, discussion and adoption, fire consultant recommendations concerning framework detailing the four-point plan, creating a path forward for planning and implementing the needed improvements for future fire protection services to the Tangipahoa Rural Fire Protection District Number 2 taxpayers.
Can I make a just comment as a personnel committee chair, and then I'll turn it over to Chief Browning and David. The board directed the personnel committee to take a look at hiring a consultant to see how we can move this fire protection district forward. As it said in these, see what improvements we need to make, what changes we need to make. And we did so. We hired Chief Butch Browning, who met with us numerous times as personnel committee. He's met with all the councilmen. He's met with the chiefs. He's met with the Chiefs Association. And, we've kind of gone through that process, and they came up with a four-point plan, and that's what's kind of on the agenda tonight. I'll turn it over to Chief Browning.
Make sure your mic is on, Chief.
Sorry, can you hear me?
No, it's on?
It says
Red
red.
button.
Good, good. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Honorable Council. It's been a really big honor to come back and help your firefighters here in this parish collaborate and bring about new ideas. I can look back in my past life when you all were talking about how you bring the formulas together and hiring the first administrator, and a lot of good work has come from that. But I think first and foremost, I'd be remiss if I didn't give credit to the people who've stood the line, who've responded to these calls through the years. And in the early years, that was volunteers. Today, that's not the case, and we wish we still had the volunteers. But you're in a situation here with your rural fire protection that's not unique. These same problems face fire districts and municipal fire departments, not only in the state of Louisiana, but across the country, with the declining in volunteerism, and honestly, the declining in trying to find young people who want to take careers in public safety. I'm sure you probably face this in your own other jobs within the parish. All that being said, I appreciate the opportunity to come and be part of this. I mean, it was very imperative when we started discussions that I always kept paramount the role of your individual fire chiefs of these districts and kept collaboration. So one of the first things that we did was sit down with individual fire chiefs. And it didn't take but 2 meetings for the narrative to be the same from meeting to meeting. And, it was a no surprise in a lot of areas. But, I think that what I'm going to present to you tonight, this framework, is a concept. And it's a concept that we work with the fire chiefs through the Fire Chiefs Association, and we immediately start putting together a path forward that could be brought through your administrator to this council, to this fire board, and move forward. But before I say anything, I would be remiss to tell you that the solution is in these fire chiefs working together and creating plans without additional revenue. If you compare your two property taxes to per capita to other areas across the state, including southern part of Louisiana, you don't have the funds you need. That's why you got the problem you got today. That's why you don't have the money to do the capital improvements. That's why you don't have the funds to maybe pay what you want to pay and replace equipment. Bottom line is you have a tax that was created on a volunteer fire department. And I would venture to say that 85% of what your expenses are today are personnel costs and related benefits. That wasn't the case when this parish came together and said, let's fund these nonprofit rural departments. So at the end of the day, this department, this organization you have, needs new money. But the chiefs get it, and I know you expect it. You can't start going to the taxpayers or figuring out other ways to bring in money if you're not accountable to every dollar you have now. And I think that's what this district has tried to do through the years, and I think they've done a good job at it. So this framework, I think, addresses a lot of things that lead you up to the point to say, okay, elected officials, okay, voters of Tangipahoa Parish, if you want better fire protection, if you want better fire ratings, here's how you can do it. So again, it started with collaboration with the individual fire chiefs and certainly with the members of the personnel committee. And I'm going to go through the framework, and I'm going to tell you what the result of the fire chiefs meeting that we had recently on November 1st and what the expectations are to move this forward. So the framework, as was stated, and I think you all have the letter, is basically 4 points. The first point and the most important point is the role of the Fire Chiefs Association. It being a trusted voice and a trusted body that brings the concepts, that brings the changes, that brings the things that need to be done through your fire administrator for you all to ratify. Very similar to what I just saw happen here with buying equipment and things of this nature. Mr. Bruno, you make up a good point. If we're going to buy a set of rescue tools, why are we not buying all the same? Why are we not buying 3 at one time and getting maybe 5 or 10% savings? These are the kind of things that I think the district has tried to do, but paramount to the Chiefs Association, they work on these things. So this unified voice is important. I think it takes a strong administrator to be at the helm of that, and you've hired someone to do that. I think you did a good job with that. He has a good relationship with the chiefs and a good rapport, and that'll work. The next piece is the budgeting and revenue. You've got to create what you think is a modern-day budget for this department. Many times in government, we seem to just chase the things that are on fire, no pun intended, and we don't really have a good plan as to what it is we're budgeting for. So these chiefs need to bring to you all, and I'll give you an example. I was talking to one of the chiefs a while back, and I said, well, how much money do you need? He said, well, I don't know. Because some of these departments are so strapped for cash that $1 is like $1 million to them. Well, if this administrator can't come stand before you and say, hey, the level of fire protection that we're trying to get to, and we're not trying to build the New York City Fire Department here, okay, but the level of fire protection that we're trying to get to, here's the money that we need. Okay, just as I'm sure a school board does with the things that they do every day, just as you do with your public works department and streets, there's a balance of what the people can afford and what their expectations are. So the first thing that we've got to do is we've got to sit down and say, what does fire protection really cost us today? What efficiencies can we bring in, and how much money do we need to provide the same level? And look, there's a lot of discussions, and I'd be happy to talk to you all, individually over a long period of time. I could come up here all night and talk, and this is y'all's last meeting of the night, so you don't want to hear me talk all that long. But there's a lot of issues of pay and remuneration. You've got situations where one rural department is hiring someone and they're training them, and then that person is moving to another department within the same rural district and getting the job because it pays $1 more an hour, or it's got better benefits. We got to bring all those things together. The rural district should not be competing with employees from Independence to Kentwood. That should not be happening. So again, if we can create a district-wide budget that utilizes all of these things and meets the expectations, Yeah, and in this, we'd have to transition from what's being done now of maybe a standalone departmental budget to more of a performance-based budget, to where we know what fuel costs, we know what things are supposed to be in a fire station, and if we're gonna have coffee in a fire station, we know what coffee costs. And basically create the things that are part of the fire department. And part of this is, and don't take this wrong, you've got areas of this parish that have a lot more calls, and you've got areas that don't have as many calls. Well, if I live in this parish, it shouldn't matter where I live. When I call 911, I want the best. But the reality is, these departments are having to juggle answering the numerous calls a day to hope that calls don't happen in other areas. So some of the things that we would have to do is say, a fire station that covers a geographical area. At the point that this station starts running so many calls, it needs somebody there, either part-time or contractually. The point that it starts running this many calls, it may need 2 people there. So as you can see, there's a lot of work, and and it's going to take a lot of work, because you got to put maybe what your wants are aside to talk about what the needs are. So in this performance-based budget, we can say this station needs a person there all the time, or this station may need 2 people there all the time. So this budgeting piece, I think, is very important, and I think it's actually going to be the hardest task to figure out. Okay, because again, if I went around the room and asked you what you expected in fire protection, you're all going to say, "Well, I want the best." But no, really, what are you willing to pay for? And it's going to be all over the map. So you really got to drill down, starting with the fire chiefs, start with the people who are experts in the field, and let them figure this out, and you all ratify it. So that brings you into the new revenue. And in this, you've got to determine a list of priorities of what goes on in this district. Certainly, I'm going to speak about the savings accounts that was the right way to do things a long time ago. Today, these savings accounts cause problems because you got people who can't afford to maybe replace a motor if it breaks, and you got other people that are saving money for something down the line that's very important and very needed. If you consolidate this money appropriately, you create this list of priorities, and if it's time to buy a fire truck, you buy the fire truck. If it's time to build a fire station, you build a fire station. But I think the direction that you're going in now, you've got departments that have some money in savings, and once they make those purchases, they're not going to have the money to do anything else, like some of your departments already have today. So as much as if I was a chief with a savings account, I want to protect that because that's my only lifeline. Well, if we bring new revenue in, that lifeline changes. So the revenue piece is very important, that we're accountable for the money that's in savings. I mean, you can't go past a tax when you got a large percentage of your money in savings, even if you can point to one area that has needs. So with that said, once you determine that, then you look at what the needs are of the district, and when you talk about new taxes, it's all over the map what you can do. Certainly, fire departments, especially rural departments, seem to gravitate to ad valorem taxes. That's the easiest and simplest thing in many cases. There's a lot of other options out there. Many people, many voters are much more amicable to fees for service, where it's a fair fee for everybody, and I'll give you an example. You've got it all over the map. You got fees for service on water meters. You got fees for service on electrical meters, to where if I have an electrical meter on my home, or if I got one on my home in my barn, I pay a fee on each one of those electrical meters, and it's a fair fee. It's not, someone with a $10 million warehouse of taxable property paying a whole lot more than someone who takes advantage of homestead exemption and maybe only pays on 20 or 30,000 of ad valorem value. So we've got to figure out what that next piece is. But I stress, we can't get to that till we do number 1 and number 2. It just does not work. The public would need a year or so of education on this before you could do it. So the final piece to this point that I think is not, I don't think it's seen as much as it has, and I've been in some experiences lately where I really see it, and that's these fire ratings. Typically speaking, you think of a fire department and they have a rating. So if you have 10 fire departments, there's 10 fire ratings. That's not exactly how it has to be organized. You could have 5 fire departments sharing one rating and 5 others sharing a total independent rating. I bring this up because every time you create a department with a rating, you create duplications. You create duplications in the way they distribute their fire stations to cover 1.5-mile response zones. You create the need for additional reserve equipment for each individual rating. From my perspective, I think that if you took maybe if you looked at some contiguous areas and looked at their ratings, you could probably initially bring 2 and 3 fire departments together. They still call themselves what they call themselves. Nobody knows, that they have one rating, but you consolidate their equipment together and use it on one rating from their training. And the list goes on and on and on. But I can tell you, you can find many efficiencies. I've been involved in a situation where a parish did that, and it's going to save $5 million in the replacement of equipment over the next 10 years that they need to replace, because they don't need that equipment. Still provide the same level of protection and probably a better fire rate when it's all said and done. So these are basically the 4 points. The Chiefs Association being that trusted voice through their fire administrator, looking at what the actual needs are and determine what this parish can afford. Moving to a performance-based budget to where it's not all, everything it's my money, his money, their money. It's spent on a fair process. If you buy a truck, you buy a truck. If you pay for electricity, you pay for electricity. And when it's time to replace equipment, you replace equipment. And then that moves you to a new revenue source, which again, 1 and 2 is a waste of time if you're not committed to 3. And then the final thing would be you start working on consolidating these ratings. We met on November 1st, the fire chiefs did, and we had very healthy discussion. And at the end, this was a unanimous vote to ask the council to approve this in consensus and allow the Chiefs Association to start forming these committees and making these moves. Now, you can't make a motion and say, yeah, do this tonight, because there's so much unknown. And anybody that thinks that a vote tonight solves the problem and brings you answers tomorrow, it's just not there. But I think it sends a message that you as a legislative branch and these folks sitting behind me as the operational and administrative branch, let them go to work and let them bring the answers to you. Again, I think determining what it costs to provide the type of fire protection this parish deserves and really needs, not necessarily wants, but doing that exercise is going to be one of the hardest things we do. So that's kind of where we are. And again, I want to end in thanking these fire chiefs for having the courage to come to meetings and put their individual past behind to say, how can we move this forward? Because the reality is I can walk out this door today and never come back. You all could do your terms, and when it's over with, if we don't solve this problem, it's just going to get worse. And if you think the equipment problems you got today are bad, 5 years from now they're going to be even worse without the funds to try and fix these problems. And many of these departments are really, you got people that work straight days in these departments that work 24/7, pulling fire hose and driving fire trucks, because it's really gotten to an epidemic. So certainly answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Let me start with David Diaz. David Chair.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. Oh, Mike's on.
I'm going to start, thank you very much, Mr. Brown. It seems like a pretty comprehensive report. But I'm going to start with David, and then I'll go back to you, John, and we come back down.
I just want to tell you, thanks for all the hard work. Thanks to all the chiefs. Look, it's time for change, and everything you've said. We've been dealing with this for many, many years. I know we're going to need help or probably consultant work in the future to try to make this thing work well. And then I know you've met with, I think you've met with all the councilmen, is that correct?
Most of them. I might have missed 1 or 2.
Okay.
I don't think I've met
And
with
then
them.
I'm planning on voting for this. I think it is a direction to move forward, and hopefully this will pass tonight. If it does pass, then we will have to have some more discussions about what our next steps are. But we need just another verification or copy of the 4-point plan. You could just send it to Mr. Joseph and myself as personnel committee. I just pulled it up. I have it on my phone.
Okay.
But just to verify, yeah, this is the plan. This is what we're doing. We had our final meeting, blah, blah, blah. And so I really appreciate all the hard work. I do. I don't have any questions.
Dave, we just got to make sure we get a copy to all the council members. Okay. John?
Yeah, Mr. Bush, we appreciate you coming out tonight. And I just have one question. You were talking about some of these departments, not so much merging, but maybe 3 of them pulling together. Does that matter if they 20, 30 miles apart, or,
So you'd want them contiguous at some point. So the concept would be if you took 3, 3, and 3, and you saw, hey, how can we merge your training together? How can we merge your equipment together to where each three don't need a reserve truck. It could eliminate 2 trucks out of what you have in 3. I think you got to kind of look now. I looked at the ratings. It seemed like the northern part had some consistent rating numbers. In the south, the ratings are a little better, which maybe that's where you start. You start up north and you start down south. But consolidating the ratings don't change their leadership. It doesn't change anything like that. It's just working together to eliminate duplications. Because if you don't, and many parishes have this, those individual departments start building stations that overlap into the other rating, but the rating don't look at that. Well, then you start combining those ratings together, and you realize you have 2 stations that are half a mile apart. And that's no big intention, but that's what happens. That's why you go into a lot of old cities, and the old fire station that was always downtown, they moved it because the city grew out, and it didn't cover it,
Mr. Bruno.
Butch, we go back a long ways. I remember when you had hair, so.
Yes, sir. And y'all made me lose it doing this work.
But I too want to thank you, and you put in a lot of time and effort on this, and I'll be leaving here in just a little short time, and this has been something that for 30 years we've been trying to figure out something. And you're right, when I first came here 36 years ago, we had enough money to do whatever we needed and had some left over. But 90% of the employees were volunteers. I bet you now, what would y'all say, 10%, 5% volunteers now, and 90% paid people. As far as a millage or a fee, I think if you can consolidate this money together, give yourself a year to get your thoughts together on what you want to do, whether it be a fee or a millage or whatever, and get the equality in these fire departments. I'm going to tell you right now, I'll be a civilian, but I'll get out there and work my tail off to try to pass it. And I think people will too. But you said something that was very important a while ago. When you try to pass a millage and you look at $6 or $7 million that's sitting there, that's just sitting there, it's hard to convince people that there's not enough money. So, and I know it's been a long time, these departments feel like that's their money, and in some ways it is. But if you want to get additional revenues, you're going to have to spread the wealth. The poor departments need help, and those people are entitled to the same fire protection as everybody else. So I would hope that this would go through. I'm going to vote for it tonight and give it a chance. I hope the new board can work together. And you gotta, this is something that I've tried to stress my whole time up here. Don't look at it like it's your fire department in your district. Look at it as the whole parish. You represent your district, but you also represent Tangipahoa Parish. Mm-hmm. So you got to make sure that when you sit down and you look at all of this, don't just say, well, this is going to affect my fire department and I don't want this. The way this parish is, you've got people that live in your district that have kinfolks living in another part of the district. So do you want them to be as safe as yours? So it's going to mean a lot to get this going. It's not going to be an easy task. I agree with you. I think we've hired a good man here who has experience at the level down low, up through the ranks. He can work with these guys, and it's going to take this board and the chiefs working together. There's not going to be perfect agreement with this all the way through. You're going to have to work together. And some people are going to get what they want, some are not. But in the long run, the gold ring out there is finding additional revenues that's going to take you far into the future. So just remember that, and I would hope and pray that this is the answer to what we've been looking for a long time. And I wish this council, I wish the Chiefs Association and the administrator the best of luck, and I'll be supporting you all the way. And if you get to the point where there's additional revenue and y'all come up with something, let me know. I'll do whatever I can to try to support that.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
You're next.
David, was the Chiefs Association, was they all in agreement to moving forward with
Yes,
this?
sir. Yeah, it was a lengthy discussion, so it was a long day for me.
100%.
But, you know, that, I think that's what needs to happen. I think you gotta have a discussion, and everybody's gotta sit down. We're not gonna all agree. But get your feelings out there, and let's see what they are, and see what you think, and then let's put it all together on paper and move forward. Arguing is not gonna get you anywhere.
I just asked you, was it Chiefs?
Yeah, they were all in agreement. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, any comments?
Well, just listening to all this, I did miss the first meeting when they brought it to the table. The main thing is to get protection for everybody equally. You know, we know we got, just what you said, we have some departments have money that they can't spend. You know, then we have some that don't have enough. I mean, I always felt like it needs to go where you get to whoever's getting the most calls should have more money than somebody that's not having as many calls. I mean, how you balance that, I don't know. You know, that's a fine balance, but, I mean, I'm willing to look at anything and move forward, whatever was gonna work for the parish. It's all about the parish.
Okay. Bridget? Kim?
Yes, so I like the performance-based budget, kind of moving forward of what are the needs going forward. I had suggested a couple times in the last couple years of having like a finance committee to where we could sit down and talk to the chiefs and look at more long-term of what is coming, what is needed, what department is needing something going forward. You know, maybe this one needs some air packs and stuff, and this one doesn't this year. And then next year, like, all right, how far out? I mean, how old is this equipment and what's going forward? And so we see in the future what's coming than just, hey, I need some equipment, and now we don't have no money. So I like that going forward. I just want to kind of go on record, you know, for the last at least 2 years, I've been working to try to help Manchac get a new station. I know some may not believe that's needed, but I just recently had someone pull, because I've been in contact with DOTD multiple times, had multiple conversations. They want the station moved. They want the generator moved. I'm worried also, so if you saw Ida and the destruction that it did, having it so close to the lake and having a levee put up south of that in the next few years, what is going to be coming for that area, for that station? I think we need to protect that asset and protect that going forward. The state has agreed that we can move it using that cooperative endeavor agreement further north and getting it out of the wave zone. So I just want to go on record that that's something we've been working on and planning for. So yes, it's been sitting there, but it was for a reason. I'm just worried about what's going to happen in the future. I think some of it needs to be built up, so that's why we were looking to move it. And I really think that we're going to have a problem in the future. But, you know, as long as, is there any chiefs that would like to say a few words? Like, this is...
Not right now, Kim.
No?
Not right now. I haven't spoken yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, I just wanted to know if they had anything to say, but I think it's going to be a good plan going forward as long as, you know, we look at everything together and where we're going. So thank you, Mr. Doza.
Yes, ma'am, you're welcome. All right, let me say this to everybody. Since I've been on this board, it's always been Rural Fire Protection District number 2. I never heard it, Protection District at Laranja. Rural Fire Protection District at Independence. It's Rural Fire Protection District number 2. So what am I saying? I'm saying that we are only as strong as our weakest fire department. You got to look at it comprehensively. It's one not an individual, not putting a puzzle together. You got one unit. I used to tell them all the time as superintendent of schools, you are only as strong as your weakest school. I mean, in the military, you're only as strong as your weakest company. You got to function as one, folks. Now, I think the report that you did is extremely good. I've absorbed, I got my 4 comments down that you made, but I'm going to say again that I made a comment tonight at the parish council meeting that Lauren Scott, the chief economist for the state, said that this parish is the fastest growing parish in the state. So what is he saying? He's saying you got more people coming in, you got more businesses coming in, you got more industry coming in, you got more schools coming in. Ponchatoula needs a new high school right now. I'm telling you all, we gotta find a way to resolve this issue so everybody can be satisfied. But you gotta think though, it's not about Ponchatoula, Hammond, Independence, Laranja as an individual. It's about the parish as a whole. Keep that in mind. Now, anyone else?
I just wanted clarity. I just want to be perfectly clear that, and anybody disagrees with me, let me know. What we passed was, the fire chief unanimously passed that we would get together and discuss the issues. There is no particular path laid out at this point. We're all going to try to work together and come up with something, the path of least resistance, if you will, and try to.
Did he present y'all the 4-point plan?
Yes, sir.
Well, then what would you think that you were voting on? He was voting on the plan.
I voted to discuss working toward implementing the plan.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many, as Mr. Browning said, there's so difference in between Hammond and Ponchatoula fire departments and the services we provide to the smaller departments up north. We have to come to some common ground. I mean, I can't, I'll sit here and tell you, I'm not going to agree that if 9 of them vote to take all the benefits and cut the salary of my firemen in half, I'm not going to agree with that.
Well, I wouldn't either.
Well,
but
you know, that's just.
That hadn't been said, Paul.
We ain't gotten to that point
There's
yet.
nothing been said. The agreement was that we would get together and work on it and try to come to a different plan. But there's been no path laid out.
That's what we do.
Am I wrong?
Jesus.
We didn't set a time frame, did we?
Yeah. David, we voted to approve the plan.
See, that was my problem. I don't even know what I'm voting on, to be honest with
You
you.
make copies of this, Mr. Davis?
But
I had meetings.
actually, what you're saying tonight, there's a 4-point plan, and you want to take it 1 point at a time. Is that correct?
Yeah, so, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, what was voted on was this framework of the 4-point plan. And it's gonna be a series of meetings and committees that bring, and like I said tonight, voting on this does not change anything. It sets a path, and it sets a consensus that you all as a council agree with the chiefs that we're gonna start working on, putting together these revenue functions, that kind of thing. Am I wrong about that, Paul?
No.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that I'm not agreeing to those 4 points and say that, you know, if I'm forced to have this performance-based budget and it's going to destroy my department, I'm not going to agree with it.
Well, I
You know,
think
I may
that's,
get outvoted, but it's going to be the majority of us.
well, I think that's what the committee's not
Yeah.
gonna agree to hurt anybody.
We ain't even
That's-
got that point
right,
yet.
right.
Yeah. All right, okay, time is well spent.
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt the 4-point plan.
I will do so. And I will make the motion that the fire consultant recommendations, make a motion to adopt the fire consultant recommendations and move forward concerning framework detailing the 4-point plan, creating a path forward for planning and implementing the needed improvements for future fire protection services to the Tangipahoa Parish Rural Fire Protection District 2 taxpayers.
Okay.
I'm sorry? Okay, let me do this again. Y'all supposed to tell me that before I finish. Okay, move that we adopt
Okay.
the fire consultant recommendations and move forward concerning framework detailing the 4-point plan, creating a path forward for planning and implementing the needed improvements for future fire protection services to the Tangipahoa Parish Rural Fire Protection District 2 taxpayers.
David, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Because I want to vote for it, but I don't want to vote for something I'm not for sure about. We're voting on going through with a plan, that when you come up with a plan and you want to do something, you got to come back to us.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
And look, and just so we know, there's 4 points. We're gonna
Yeah.
take 1 point at a time.
Yeah.
That
One of those
first
points
point
comes
will
back
be,
to us.
yeah, the first point will be a discussion between our consultant
And-
the Chiefs Association, and somebody from the fire board will sit in. Those will draw the framework for the first one. They'll get an agreement, and once you get the first one done, you move to the second. Then once you get the second one done, you move to the third.
Yeah,
And everything's brought back to us.
Everything's gotta come back as a vote to us.
of course.
So everybody's gonna get a chance to get their input. But the only problem is, the majority's gonna rule. Majority's gonna rule on the fire side, the chief side, and
the
majority's
council
gonna
side.
rule on this board. So as long as everybody knows that going in, we okay. So I don't want, well, I ain't gonna say I don't want, because I'm not here, but I don't think y'all wanna hear, well, I got outvoted 8-2.
Yeah.
Well, if you got outvoted 8-2, I'm sorry, that's how it is. But I think between y'all working together, and one thing I can say, Paul, you brought up a good point. I don't think salaries have got to stay like they are. If you combine all the money or you don't combine all the money, you can't go in and take somebody's salary. That can't happen.
We can set a minimum across the parish.
And that could be for future.
Yeah.
For the future.
But the people that are getting paid now, they have to, you'd have lawsuit city if you did that. But I don't think that's even something that's in question. I mean, a man that's making his money now and he's put 10 years in, you can't go to him and say you're going from $15 to 10.
No.
So
that
I
won't
hope
happen.
everybody has that much sense to understand that. But the stuff that's really important is all the other stuff, the equipment and the purchasing and how you can bundle this stuff and save money and all of that kind of stuff. But if you want to get to the point where you want new revenue, y'all have got to come together and get some of these inequities filled out. But under no circumstances, I don't think anybody on this board would stand for going in and cutting people's salaries. I don't think that's
No.
not gonna happen.
Grandfathered in.
Okay,
Yeah.
I heard David's motion, but I didn't hear a second.
I'll second.
Mr. Boone, second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Richtel,
Yes.
Mr. Mayhew,
Yes.
Mr. Vial,
Yes.
Ms. Hyde,
Yes.
Ms. Coates,
Yes.
Mr. Graffia,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimously. The next item is motion to adjourn.
So move.
Good, because Joe
Can I-
Thomas turned the air conditioner on.
It's cold in here. Thank you all.